Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Bree Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. We just finished a ravishing game of rock, paper, scissors that devolved into a little bit of chaos here before the show. As per usual, guys, how are you doing?
I was doing great up until the pregame when we were deciding for the sake of transparency, we are doing a draft today, and we were deciding which picks everyone was going to get. I wanted third, but Zach had me compete for first somehow
This
in like
is nonsense. This is
way.
so ridiculous.
And
then
I ended up winning, but I get the worst pick. So I was doing great up until right now. Still going to run laps around everybody. Anyways,
friend of the show. Enjoy, everybody. You're watching the last ever episode of the Let's Talk Broncos podcast. We were trying to figure out draft order, and I went, "Oh, you guys can take first if you want, whatever." Thinking the first was the best, and they competed for it. And then after they decided, Zach, you take third, they turned on me and acted like I played some Machiavellian game. Since then, I've offered to take second. I've offered to take first. And they are steadfast, as you will see once we do the draft. They're steadfast in being upset about this.
I'm going to be upset no matter what. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You cannot make me happy. It's not going to happen.
Bree's closing statement before the show was, "I don't even like you guys." We're coming in raging hot. It's I think the best show, and obviously Bree's joking. We're all having fun here. But no, I think the energy's on fire for this show. This is going to be an all-timer, folks. Strap in.
Let the records show that Zach Seegers also said your grumpy levels are off the charts. So we'll just go with that. We'll start the show here. And if you want to engage with us, have fun with us, and talk a little bit of Broncos while we're at it, go ahead and jump on over to the YouTube or the Facebook stream so you can get your questions and comments highlighted. It's going to be a fun show tonight. I know we're all having a good time because, even after a day that I've had, I get to come on here and talk Broncos with my guys. Let's get it started. And because Joey won Rochambeau, he gets to go first with the number 1 overall pick. Joey, I have all of the faith in you for this one. Don't blow it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. We didn't even explain what we were picking.
Oh my goodness. We're just chaos mode.
I don't know what we do here. Honestly, it's just to entertain us. You guys watching along just get to enjoy the ride. We're going to be drafting the 2023 Breakout Broncos stars for this upcoming season. Who's going to have a big season? Who's going to step up in their roles? And it's our job to predict this here. I have an idea of who I'm going to pick, so don't sneak in there and take my choice. Joey, please get us started off right.
All right, everybody. We are drafting Breakout Broncos, guys that we think are going to have a big season this year that might not have had the big seasons in years past. Who is better than friend of the show, Caden Stearns? When I'm looking up and down the Broncos roster, I don't see anybody really competing with Caden Stearns for the starting spot. I think he is going to be the guy at that starting safety. And I'm not going to even, there's some Broncos that we've heard some pre-hype about, right? Like, oh, this guy's going to break out. This guy's going to break out in years prior, and it hasn't worked out. Let me tell you the big difference between Caden Stearns and those guys. We've seen it with Caden Stearns. His rookie year, he looked good. We've seen it on the field. All it is he's going to get more playing time. So I think Caden Stearns is definitely going to step in, be a big part of that Broncos defense. He has all the athleticism in the world to reach a really high ceiling, and he's already shown productive play. It's just about improving upon that. So Caden Stearns is my number 1 breakout player for the Broncos, and I think it's pretty clear cut.
I'm frustrated. He was the guy I was planning to target in the first round. I saw Joey's Twitter post, which kind of spurred this idea a while back, and I thought you were going to go in a different direction. So I thought I was going to cruise on in and get Caden Stearns with my first round pick. I absolutely love it. I think he's going to get the starting safety job. I think he should get the starting safety job. My only concern is the hip. On the show, he said he was feeling 100% better than ever. Talked about how this was something he was dealing with throughout his NFL career, and maybe this even unlocks a new level for him. That feels almost a little too optimistic for me. I don't want to walk out on that branch, especially with how Broncos country has gotten burned.
I'm sending that to him, by the way, but continue.
Yeah.
If you have anything else negative to say, just go ahead. This is all going to him. Continue.
I am like, man, here's why I'm cautious about him being even better post the surgery, because he was phenomenal his first 2 years. I think we could all agree with that. Last offseason, I was arguing he should steal the starting job. It didn't happen then, but I think he's more than capable now. I think he's going to thrive in it. I wonder about the fit in Vance Joseph's defense. If he just does things identical to what he did in Arizona? But I'm confident Vance Joseph can be a little creative there. I think we have seen a little variation in what he does defensively. And I don't know. I think he's a super talented safety who's going to get a starting job for the first time. That's a clear breakout candidate.
Mm-hmm. Juan Espinoza's first one in the chat. Good evening, gentlemen and ma'am. Ma'am, that's a new one. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Just wanted to say you rock. Well, you rock too, Juan. Thanks for jumping in, watching the show. If you have a candidate for Breakout Player of 2023, drop it in the chat. Have a conversation with us. We are live. Joey just picked Caden Stearns. All of our faces fell. I think we're also going in that direction because I had him as my first pick as well. Obviously friend of the show, but I really think that this is the season that we're able to conclude all of the things that we've been saying since his rookie year. Obviously in training camp, we even had sights set on Caden Stearns and his play. When would he be ready? And I think this year is pointing all points positive. I'm just trying not to undersell Joey's pick because I honestly wouldn't believe in fighting. I think you made the right choice there, Joey. I'm going to go with what I think is going to be the most, I guess, relative pick here for breakout star for 2023, and that's because this player had 2 back-to-back seasons with 5 and 6 touchdowns apiece, over 700 yards. That's Tim Patrick returning from injury, and I think this is the direction that the wide receiver group has to go in here, because not only was he set to have a huge breakout year in 2022, 2023 return from injury. I'm hoping that it is not a delayed or regressed approach here. I hope that Russell Wilson is able to connect with him. I know there's going to be some trepidation that he's not going to be 100% after this injury, but it sounds like proof positive. He is 100% ready to return to the field, and he's feeling really good. We know Tim Patrick plays a reckless game. He himself has said it, that he's going to go out there, stretch the field, and he's just a big body player, able to make a lot of contact out there, retain, and some yards after the catch is going to be really important for the Denver Broncos receiving group as we move into 2023. I'm going with Tim Patrick.
Okay, Bree. I appreciate you, Bree, telling me that you weren't going to give me any pushback on my pick, but in the name of competition, I have to give you pushback on your pick.
That's fine. It's the people voting, not you, so I don't really care.
No, yeah, but I'm influencing the people.
Joey runs a smear campaign.
That's giving yourself a lot of credit, Joey, that you can influence the people. Yeah.
I mean,
man of the people, Joey Richards.
Here's my main question here. Hasn't Tim Patrick already broke out? I already think Tim Patrick's really good. I don't know if he can break out because I think he already has. I think he can get better, but break out is a specific word. And I think he's already broken out he's on his second contract. Broncos re-signed him to a big deal. How can he break out?
Because you're coming back from a really poor position after 2 really big years, hoping to be the star receiver. I think if you come back and you do exactly that, that is a breakout season for the young receiver.
I agree with Bree. I think he can break out. It was not a guy that I listed on my big board because it wasn't a name that came to mind, but I think he could totally break out. I think it's how you frame it. And Bree put it perfectly. I think he's broken out as a starting receiver. This is a guy who came into the league as an undrafted free agent. And as we saw with Philip Lindsay and all sorts of guys, CJ Anderson, it takes a little extra work to prove yourself as an undrafted free agent and earn even a second contract. Like Austin Eckler's like, please just pay me my worth. And Los Angeles is like, no, we understand the leverage position we're in. So we're not going to do that. It's brutal as an undrafted free agent. So I think he did have a breakout. Earning the role that he did. I think he can break out further. And I know Joey thinks this too. I wanted him to go first because Joey was gassing up how maybe Tim Patrick is the vertical threat option in Sean Payton's offense. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I want Joey to run with it because it was his idea and I want him to take credit for it. But I think especially if you see a guy like Courtland Sutton traded, and, I think they're going to be running a lot more 12 and 21 personnel with Sean Payton. I think there'll be a lot more just 2 wide receiver sets out there. And maybe it is Judy and Patrick as those lead 2 guys. And he is the main vertical threat in that offense with a receiver, or sorry, with a quarterback rather, that I think the one thing he has left is an awesome deep ball. So I don't know. I could see him break out a little further. I like the pick, even though it wouldn't have been one that would have come to mind for me.
Yeah. No, I think Tim Patrick's a great pick. If we're talking about guy that can just improve upon, like so maybe my definition of breakout is just a little different. But if we're talking about guys that are just going to further improve, I think Tim Patrick definitely can.
Well,
he has all the athleticism in the world. He's really good. I think that he could be the Broncos' best receiver, and I even said that 2 years ago.
I think we're all just saying we do this thing, or we're all saying kind of the same thing, and then we're trying to make a fight out of it. That's mostly my fault. I apologize. But I want to also note that although Tim Patrick's a really great wide receiver, I think breakout can constitute, as we're going to see some games from Tim Patrick that really set him apart from other receivers on this team, that put him into that conversation with other wide receivers in this league, because a lot of what the question and the topic and the narrative around Tim Patrick has been that he's not yet a household name, that people forgot about him. Now that he's had a whole year out, he's back at square one there. He has to reestablish that realm here in the league. So I think that breakout to me means he will then recatapult himself to the top of that discussion.
What percentage of NFL fans could name Tim Patrick?
That's okay. When you frame it like that, Bree, I will give you your credit. That's a good pick. If you're projecting Tim Patrick, if you're saying he has a chance this next year to become more of a national household name, that would be breakout. So I could see that.
Thanks for confirming and then mansplaining that back to me, Joey. I really appreciate it.
Will, Bree, I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. I disagree. Bree was completely wrong about that. Tim Patrick has absolutely already broke out. I thought that he was the best receiver on the Broncos 2 seasons ago, and now we're projecting him to be the best receiver this year. It's a bad pick. I don't like it. I just don't think it makes sense.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Cole Cooper, to get us back on track, says, I just want anybody to break out honestly.
True.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Just give me anybody. Zach, it is your turn with the number 3 and the number 4 pick.
Yeah, you know what? They need someone to break out here more than anyone else, or anywhere else rather. And that's along the offensive line. They need offensive line help desperately. I'm going with Quinn Miners. I think what we saw from go back to 2019, from 2019 to 2021 was remarkable with Quinn Miners. He is kind of this mauling, just physically super impressive, but very raw guard at a no-name college. Season gets canceled because of COVID in 2020. Doesn't get to play at all. Goes down to the Senior Bowl. They go, hey, can you play center? So he has to learn how to play center. He does that, gets drafted by the Broncos as a center. They go, oh, no, we actually like you better as a guard. So after learning how to play center and learning center in the Broncos offense, he then has to play guard again, while also having to learn all these new things. He didn't know how to block a basic like nickel or dime front. Like he was confused by how defenses aligned when they were playing nickel and dime during his rookie season. He said that was the biggest learning curve for him. We see him take these huge strides. And then in year 2, he is saddled with a horrible coaching staff. And I don't think he regressed, but I think he kind of plateaued. Now he's back with a good coaching staff. I think Zach Street, a guy who is a legendary guard in his own right, came into the league as a 7th round pick, had to develop. I think he'll be a good mentor for Quinn Miners, get him right on the right path. And the leap he took from 2019 to 2021 was insane. The leap from 2020 at the Senior Bowl to 2021, in my opinion, is insane. He's proven he can do it. I think we're going to see another huge leap from Quinn Miners, and maybe it's a Pro Bowl, maybe it's even an All-Pro season.
Mm-hmm. I do have to say, Zach, I don't mind this pick. I don't. I'm not going to give you crazy pushback because I think it was so obvious to me before the season that Quinn Miners was going to take a big leap just because I've seen him get on a fast track and just become so good up until this season. Just literally just get better and better and better and better ridiculously fast that he didn't become the player that I envisioned him being this next season. And that's a huge indictment to me against Butch Berry. I think it could be, honestly, the difference could just be bringing in a new O-line coach. As simple as that, I think it could be. So I don't mind this one at all. I really like Quinn Miners a good bit. I'm excited for the combination. I'm happy to have two guards I'm excited about. Ben Powers and Quinn Miners going to be really good for the Broncos for years to come. I feel confident in that. I really do. So I like this one. Now, if I were going to give some criticism, Zach, on this, how far can an O-lineman break out? Like, I guess on a skill-wise, we can talk about this. But
Ask Andrew Thomas, Joey.
Do you think any casual NFL fans know about Andrew Thomas breakout, or just the Giants fans and maybe some really in-depth football?
Well, I think it's how we're framing breakout. And I think Bree framed it in a term of celebrity and household success. And I do think that's one definition, but I don't think this is a really narrow concept with only one definition. I think there's multiple. And in this sense, I think he's going to be a breakout star, not in terms of household notoriety, though I will say, like, if any guard is going to get some household attention, it's going to be the belly, a guy who already kind of had that combine buzz. Like, I know you'll roll your eyes at it, but NFL Network did tons of segments on it, and he was a celebrity going into the combine, and everyone was laughing about the tree video and whatever. If all of a sudden he starts having an awesome season, and guard talk isn't like as foreign as it used to be. Like, you have Mina Kimes, and I'm just going to space on other NFL Live people, but Mina Kimes, Dan Orlovsky, the big guy, providing, I think, much more thoughtful NFL coverage to a mainstream audience. Like, that's the NFL show on the worldwide leader. And they talk about really good guards. That's you've got a character having a breakout season at guard that'll be discussed. So even if you want to term it in terms of celebrity, he'll be a much bigger star a year from now than he is right now. In terms of play, though, which is how I was framing my breakout, Quinn Miners is breaking out. And I think going from, again, a good starting guard to a Pro Bowl or an all-pro level guard.
I don't hate it, but there's still other players I like more. So, Bree, take it away.
It's me, actually. It snakes back to me, Joey.
Who are you going to take?
Baron Browning. I'm going with Baron Browning. The big concern, and it's something we've brought up throughout this breakout episode, is injury for me. I think he struggled to stay healthy at Ohio State. He struggled to stay healthy in the NFL, happened both his 2 years so far. That said, what we saw from him at edge, considering how little he's played the position, was remarkable. Just standout stuff. And he has all the things you can't teach too, like the way he explodes off the line, his bend, his natural gifts. Joey's going to try and tear apart this pick in a second, but pull up the LTBs from a few months ago when Joey's gushing over Baron Browning, because Baron Browning really was that amazing. Now he's gotten to stay at the same position for a year, something he hasn't ever really gotten to do. Hey, we talked about some players in the past not having consistent coaching staffs. Not only has Baron Browning not really had a consistent coaching staff, he hasn't had a consistent position. Now he can build on that. And I don't know. I think he's going to break out as a borderline double-digit sack player. I think that's going to be a huge stride forward, and he's going to give the Broncos some real pass rushing presence. He might even become their 1A.
I like what you weaved in there, stitched in the seams there for Browning, is that the continuity there and the reliability in his position, I think, is just going to catapult him, is going to exponentially raise his productivity there in the position. But I'll let Joey cast his, I guess, counter claim.
No, I love Baron Browning, so this one's a little hard to do this on. I like this pick. Zach, this was a player that I think I would have taken before your last one. So I like the result. I don't like the process of your drafting. But Baron Browning, I think, is going to be phenomenal. I really do actually think this. If I'm talking about pass rushers, and guys, pass rushing is super valuable on its own. There's a reason why you take guys that are pass rush specialists in the draft. You don't take stopping specialists at edge in the draft. You just don't do that. You're looking for either 3-down players or pass rush specialists. That's what you're looking for. So I love it. I love Baron Browning. I think he's going to be a phenomenal pass rusher in the NFL. I'm excited to see what year 2 looks like at the same position. Because while year 1 might have been inconsistent at edge, it was year 1. Like, let's everyone keep that in mind. The flashes on its own are encouraging. So I don't have much bad to say about this, especially at this point in this draft.
I don't have much to say bad about it. Also, not going to fight it because you like Baron Browning. Apparently, you don't like Tim Patrick, and that's okay. On to my pick, which is going to surprise nobody. But I think after a year fraught with injury, this player missed 7 games in 2022, but still was able to amass 33 receptions for about 413 yards. I think Greg Dulcich is going to have that breakout year, not only because he's that prototypical build of a tight end, that I think Sean Payton is going to be able to make a lot of combinations, some winning combinations there for the offense. I think it's an intriguing aspect that not only was he able to do a lot with only a couple of games, I just really hope that it's not a 2-touchdown year. I hope it's double or triple that. There really is able to show Dulcich's ability to be a multifaceted tight end. And I think that that's where this comes into a breakout category, because you're going to see obviously very flashy signs of a very special player dealing with an unfortunate injury, to be able to rehab that, have an entire season to really get on grips with that hamstring, and then come back hopefully stronger than ever. So big ol' ups to Greggy D, Frankie Abbott shouting out in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Frankie. Guys, tear it apart.
Yeah, let's ride.
I have a question. Why is Greg Dulcich, it feel like, flying under the radar to Broncos fans after his rookie season? I don't hear much about Greg Dulcich, and it's a weird thing, especially for the production he had as a rookie, who didn't play for a long while, didn't get those reps in training camp that we wanted, just came in playing a position that usually takes a long time to develop, and came in as a player that was productive right out the gate. Took what everyone thought was the starting tight end's Albert O spot in the snap of finger. The moment he was healthy is the moment he was in the starting lineup, which told you about what the Broncos' prior coaching staff thought of him. They thought of Greg Dulcich very, very highly, and I thought he lived up to expectations. So I am excited to see what year 2 looks like. I do want him to become a better blocker. Maybe some of that off-season peanut butter, as Vach Lombardi would say. He comes into the gym, gets a little, gets that grown NFL vet body, and he's able to go out there and be more productive in that facet of his game. I like Greg Dulcich. I wonder if he's ever going to be one of the elite tight ends in the NFL, but I think he can be a good one.
Well, don't sleep alongside the rest of Broncos country by not failing to mention that coming into your second year in the season is a great time to put on some weight there. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Less of the stringy ability that you have as a young kid. You're going into your body, you're going into the system. I think that it's just going to prove positive that the experience there going into year 2, year 3, I think it's just going to ramp up. Hopefully, if he's able to stay healthy. Zach.
Yeah, I love the pick. I think he's going to break out. Joey, both of you put it really well. It's crazy to me that Broncos country is sleeping on, a potential breakout from him. I don't know if he's ever going to be a great blocker, but I think he can be a fine one. And even if he's not, like, oh no, what will Sean Payton do with a really good receiving tight end that isn't the best blocker? Mm-hmm. Is there any historical examples we can look to? Yeah, we can look to some really successful ones, primarily Jimmy Graham, but even like Jared Cook had a lot of
Cook, yeah, just about to say Jared Cook, yeah.
But like, look at what Jimmy Graham did with Sean Payton, and I don't think Greg Dulcich has Jimmy Graham's athleticism. Not to say he's a bad athlete. I don't think it's at Jimmy Graham's level, but I don't think Jimmy Graham ever had Greg Dulcich's feel and understanding of spacing. So I don't know. I think I could see a huge breakout for Dulcich in that regard. My one concern is going to be injury with the hamstring thing that plagued his rookie season. Is that going to be something we see pop up again in 2023? I'll counter my own concern there and say, well, he was really, really healthy in college. He really didn't miss any time once he entered the starting lineup there. So it's not like he has maybe like a KJ Hamler. Actually, KJ Hamler has it in two ways, where he has a long history of injury and also has a body type that makes you worried about being more prone to injury anyways. I don't think you have those concerns with Greg Dulcich, so I think there's a good chance he stays healthy.
Yeah. And Zach, even to what you were talking about, former Saints tight ends, Jeremy Shockey was a really good one. There's been Sean Payton to Colton Cooper's point right here has been he's had a lot of success with different tight ends in that offense, which I'm excited to see for Greg Dulcich. I really hope he has a great year.
In case you're wondering what Joey's comment is that he's referring to, is Coops in the chat saying there's been some fun stuff in his past playbooks, Sean Payton's playbooks for tight ends. I'm excited for Dulcich. We are too. Well, at least I am. I'm gunning to win this draft. Joey, that leaves it to you with the final pick of the 2023 Breakout Star drafts. Who's your JR drafts? Anyways, who's your final pick?
My final pick, and there's two guys on here that I was thinking about, but I'm going to go with the guy that I think is going to go into the Broncos offseason with no competition. He's going to be a starter. He's going to be entering his second year, and his name is Damari Mathis. I think he is the clear-cut corner for the Broncos this year. The Broncos didn't bring in anybody notable to compete with him, unlike some of your guys' picks. So I think Damari Mathis is going to be really, really productive this year. PJ Locke was on the show. I asked him about Damari, and he gave a really good answer, which I'm going to clip and throw on my Twitter probably after this because I said I would, but I didn't. About just how quick he picked things up. He noted a training camp play where he kept getting beat on the same thing, and then all of a sudden that same practice flipped a switch and it was done. He figured it out. It's the same thing that we saw from his first game to his second game to his third game to his fourth game as a starter this last year. The player we saw at the beginning wasn't the player that we saw at the end. Why would I assume that stops? That production, that ability to keep getting better. So I think Damari Mathis has a good chance to be a breakout player for the Broncos this year. Someone that could say he could start next to Patrick Surtain for years to come. Why can't he?
We quickly saw him move on from a lot of the errors that may have happened early on in the season and really just showcase his ability to be physical, not avoiding contact whatsoever. And so maybe that is the way to break out here in 2023 is just show that physicality. Don't shy away from the contact and get your hands on the receivers. I like it. I don't hate it at all. Zach, I saw you light up a little bit there. Do you have hesitation with this pick?
I like it. I mainly lit up at the shot. Oh, they signed people to replace some of your picks. Okay. Bree picked Tim Patrick. Who did they sign that's replacing Tim Patrick? If anything, they're looking to get rid of their other receivers to open things up for him. Who did they sign to replace Quinn Miners? No one. Who did they sign to replace
someone at his position? I don't remember.
To start alongside him, which will help him out of anything. Who did they sign?
It's called depth, but all right.
Who did they sign at edge? No one. Who did they sign at tight end? Chris Manhertz. That's all you have.
They have Nick Benito and Randy Gregory at edge.
You talked about
so then why didn't you pick Nick Benito as your breakout star?
Because I have more faith in Darren Browning. It's just that Nick Benito, I can't not taking away that he was a second-round pick.
You're talking about signings. Chris Manhertz is all you've got, and Chris Manhertz,
Randy Gregory, Nick Benito, Ben Powers. The list goes on. Continue.
Marquez Callaway is going to step in.
Marquez Callaway. Exactly.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane to me. But that aside, I do like the pick. Damari Mathis was awesome last year. We saw it throughout training camp. We saw it go into the season. He had the early rough showings, but I think it's good to see that he was able to rebound from that. That was something that Isaac Yiadom was never really able to rebound from in Denver. I don't know. I am optimistic about Damari Mathis. The one reason I think he made it to pick number 6 is that cornerback is a really high variance position. And he came in and had that strong rookie year, and maybe that leads to a pop in year 2. It also wouldn't be surprising if he came back down to earth and was very pedestrian in year 2, now that he's got a lot more on his plate. Because Vance Joseph's defense, and maybe he's flexible, again, as I mentioned earlier in the show. But as we know it now, Vance Joseph's defense puts a lot more on the cornerback's plate, and we'll see a lot more isolation moments than we saw this past season in that Evero look.
I do have to say, for Damari Mathis, I think it's telling that they didn't bring in another notable corner. Like, it is a little telling. Like, they have faith in the guy. They wouldn't have just done that. They don't view him as a backup. They view him as a starter, a guy that is going to play this year. It just, on paper, it's a position that they were trying to replace Damari Mathis. A lot of the fan base was, we need to bring in, exactly, Frankie says it, they cut Darby. Like, a lot of people are saying the Broncos need corner, they need corner, they need corner. The Broncos said, no, we do not. So it's kind of telling on how I think the Broncos feel about Damari Mathis. I'm excited to see it. I agree with PJ Locke. I don't know about you guys.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, of course we do. Don't start this. I don't want to deal with it. After a long break, it's time for Joey's question of the day.
Yes, guys.
I
have a question.
Can't scroll down quick enough.
It's ridiculous every single time. Who do you guys think, according to relative athletic score, is the most athletic quarterback the Broncos ever drafted?
Oh, I thought you were going to say of all time, and I knew it. Oh. That they ever drafted?
Yeah, you guys have 5 seconds or everyone loses.
Paxton
Lynch.
Oh,
it is Paxton Lynch.
Tim Tebow.
Really?
Tim Tebow had a better RAS than Paxton Lynch?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised by that.
What was his 40?
I have no idea. I looked it up like 3 days ago. I hope I'm right. But we're running with Tim Tebow. It's Tim Tebow. It is. I remember it's Tim Tebow.
Hi, the final word from Mile High Sports. You keep killing it. We appreciate you.
Okay.
You'll be surprised it's not covered.
Yep, it's Tim Tebow.
9.92
relative athletic score. To your question, his 40 was a 4.72.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Or no, 4.7. I was thinking of 4.47.
His 3-cone was a 10.0 at the time. His vertical, he had a 38.5-inch vertical. Very athletic quarterback.
That is, but he wasn't really a quarterback. I mean, technically, but.
Yeah, he should have been a tight end. But Bree beats me. She was closer. Paxton Lynch had a relative athletic score of 8.99. Drew Lock had a relative athletic score of 9.39. So closer to Tim Tebow.
Yeah. Drew Lock was second. Paxton Lynch was third. Jay Cutler was fourth as far as relative athletic scores go.
Yes, final word. We would love a question.
Coop says, if only he could throw the ball, in reference to, I think, Tim Tebow. Maybe Drew Lock. I don't know. Tebow was a multi-sport maniac in high school, so I'm not too shocked. Good guess. Thanks, Frankie Abbott. Final word, you are absolutely welcome to ask a question if you would like. We're just wrapping up here with Joey's question of the day. This is Let's Talk Broncos. What? Yes.
Man, I don't think we have a John Elway RAS. Because I think RAS only goes back to 1987 and Elway came out in 83. And of course, the Broncos didn't draft him either. But I'm curious.
I have another good one. Do you guys want me another one?
Yeah, throw out another one while we wait for the final word.
Okay. Let's see. Who do you guys think is the most athletic wide receiver the Broncos ever drafted according to relative athletic score?
Ever drafted?
The most athletic player they've ever drafted.
At wide receiver. Wide receiver. You guys have 5 seconds. 5.
I don't. I'm going to
Marshall.
Who you got, Bree?
I don't.
PT.
Cody Latimer.
No.
No
Cody Latimer
way.
with
He
a
did not move like
9.93, and it has aged really good. It's still at a 9.94. So height 6'2", which put him in the 82nd percentile. His weight had him in the 88th percentile. His bench had him in the 98. His vertical 39 inches, 90%. 40, he ran a 4.44. He had no weaknesses. Everything was in the green for him.
Oh, the final word has a really interesting question. I think we could make an entire episode off of that. Is this the biggest offseason of all time for the Denver Broncos? I don't know. I'd have to think back to when Peyton Manning was being recruited by the Broncos. I'd have to think about the recruitment and free agency class during his time that really solidified that run there. But I think that it's a big off season. I don't know if it's the biggest. This off season almost seems like we're waiting for something else, for the other shoe to fall. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like it has not reached a peak here at all. I think it's an exciting one. I think there's a lot of movement, but I do think a lot of us are having a bit of hesitation. And I don't want to speak for all of Broncos country or all of LTB, but I know I'm kind of sitting back thinking I still wish there were a couple of things that could be done to make this offseason a little more exciting. I just don't know what those are. Guys, how do you feel about this offseason?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like Brandon Marshall has a RAS. I don't think he went to the combine, so I don't have numbers on him. So I wonder if he'd beat out Cody Latimer if I can dig those numbers up. I might post like a John Elway calculated RAS and like Brandon Marshall ones, some fun ones on my Twitter once we're done recording here. But to answer the final words question, I agree. I don't think this is the biggest offseason for the Broncos. I think last offseason was maybe the biggest offseason in Broncos history. I think you could also point to 2013 as one that was bigger, where you had Peyton Manning, you got so close to the Super Bowl. How do we go all in to get this team over the hump? And they made all those big signings that kind of helped clear. Or maybe that was a 2014's offseason, rather, before the 2014 season. And that ultimately led to them winning in 2015. That stands out as another big one. But yeah, we're waiting for the shoe to drop here. Next offseason is going to be another big one, but they took a big swing at coach last offseason. They had ownership come in. They took this massive swing at quarterback. I think it's last year's.
Interesting. I don't think it's far off. The Broncos traded their first-round pick for a head coach. When has that ever happened? Never. And this is a big deal because that allows him to stick with the Broncos for a very long time. If Sean Payton doesn't work out, the ramifications are big because he's going to be a Bronco for a very long time. So it's better. This better work out. This better be the head coach of the future for the Broncos. And I do think so because of Sean Payton is, I don't think it's the biggest, but I think it's up there because of that. He is brought in with a lot on his back. I didn't think he would want the Broncos to be. I didn't think he would want the Broncos, honestly. I really didn't, just with Russell Wilson stuff, and he's taking on the challenge. Or if he decides to, hey, Russell Wilson's not the guy, he's going to be in charge of drafting the next quarterback. It's a big offseason because of that Sean Payton hire. He like so many different things that could happen off of this. Like
Perhaps it's the biggest as far as implications are concerned.
It could be. It's up there with last year. It's as far as ramifications because of the Russell Wilson trade. Quarterback is obviously, I think it's more important than head coach, but this one's a little more than your average head coach hire because of how much you had to give up to get him.
Zach.
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge one. I do think if we're going with the superlative, it falls a little short. There are others that have been bigger. Some RAS numbers I saw in the chat. Eddie Royal is 8.03 for those that were asking. Brandon Marshall is 7.83. I can't find one on Demaryius Thomas, but I'm going to have to dig deeper for that. I'm wondering if he didn't participate in the combine. Brock Osweiler, someone asked that. Also, I can't find RAS numbers on. So that and John Elway, go over to my Twitter page. I'll have those.
The final word chimes in with great take, Joey. If this doesn't work, he was brought in to fix a bad cap situation. ... Please go and check out the final word on Saturday's Mile High Sports Radio with Alex Ramirez and Joe Rico. We appreciate. I don't know which one is tuning in. I think possibly Alex, but we appreciate you. Appreciate your time, and we appreciate all of Broncos country, guys. Where can everybody find your stuff?
Yeah, everyone follow me at JR Drafts. Just make sure you are subscribing to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. If you're watching through the Mile High Sports YouTube right now, make sure you go over there, subscribe. It's a lot of cool content. Frankie and I show is over there. I also have another good. I'm starting to do videos on there. I have one released. I'm working on the next one. I'm taking in advice and I'm working on that. Still working on it. I've started it. We're just going to make it really good. So, JR Drafts, make sure you're following Let's Talk Broncos on YouTube. Subscribe. Zach, where can they find your work, man?
Yeah, over on milehighsports.com, over on at Zach_Seegers too. I am having the constant live coverage of Buffs camp as they get underway there, covering all the press conferences, and then I'm cutting out the best snippets and serving them up to you on a platter, so you don't have to sift through all that garbage yourself. I've got all the best clips for you over at Zach_Seegers, so check that out. I've got a lot of like columns and opinion pieces coming out over on the website too, milehighsports.com, where I'll be, talking about what's going well for them in practice, what's not going well for them in practice, why you should be so excited for the basketball team coming out over this weekend. So go check that out as well. Bree, where's all your amazing work? Go.
Follow me on Twitter, Bree Maces 303. Catch me on the Fan Cave, 1 to 2 p.m. on Mondays. That's where Zach Seegers joins me. We talk just about anything, and you can catch me here every single day on the Let's Talk Broncos podcast. Make sure you're tuning in on the next episode, which will be Thursday. Tomorrow as Joey Richards and Frankie Abbott take on another mock draft. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you're subscribing over to Let's Talk Broncos on YouTube, and we will see you again quite soon. Have a good one. Take care, guys.